dawn of the 20th century in South Africa was a period of profound upheaval. Colonial rule tightened its grip, and simmering tensions between the indigenous population and the white minority government were reaching a boiling point. It was against this backdrop that Isaiah Mloyiswa Mudliwamafa Shembe embarked on a spiritual odyssey that will culminate in the formation of the Nazarite Baptist Church. Isaiah Shembe was born in 1865 at Ntabelanga, a Scott area in the foothills of the Drakensberg in Natal. The family later relocated to the Harrismith area and settled there. Shembe's early life was deeply influenced by the burgeoning missionary movement while his parents worked on a farm. As legend has it, when Isaiah Shembe's mother was pregnant with him, a voice said to her, "You will bear a son who will be a special messenger." Shembe's mother was not a religious person and did not grasp the full significance of the words. His uncle Nhlizio gave him the name Shembe, and his father named him Mudliwamafa, meaning the inheritor. Shembe styled himself as a biblical character, and at his baptism in 1906, he changed his name from Mudliwamafa to Isaiah. Another popular anecdote steeped in myth and legend narrates an event in young Shembe's life. This was seen as a turning point for Shembe. Apparently, when Shembe was still a toddler, he became extremely ill, and the following day he died. His father and the men of the village went out to dig a grave for the young corpse. While they were still busy, a little boy appeared and told them that a cow belonging to Shembe's father had just died. Shembe's father asked what had happened to it, and the young boy explained that he just saw it toppling off a flat rock and that it fell to its death. The man at the grave sent one of the men to inquire from the diviner as to the significance of these two deaths. The diviner advised them not to be afraid of the loss of both the child and the cow, that the cow's death had brought back the young Shembe spirit. As the men were returning home, before they had even arrived, women who had been watching the child's body saw the cloth which covered Shembe moving. They looked closely and saw that the child quivering and his breath running. After a moment's hesitation, they sent for the men to stop digging the grave because the child returned to life. After that incident, Shembe was excellent in health. Although Shembe never went to a formal school and received little missionary education, he was able to recite biblical verses from memory, therefore outwitting most European missionaries. However, he learned to partially read and write later in his life. It is claimed that Shembe was a member of the Wesleyan Methodist Church. The church influenced his love for Wesleyan hymns. He absorbed its doctrine and practices. Shembe later on moved out of the Wesleyan Methodist Church because he had disagreed with it on the issue of baptism. Shembe's early life was steeped in both traditional Zulu customs and the influence of Christianity. He was a man deeply connected to his people, yet driven by a unique spiritual vision. The rigid structure and foreign origins of the church began to feel increasingly distant from the spiritual and cultural realities of the Zulu people. As Shembe grew older, he became increasingly disgruntled with the church's teachings. This came with a sense of dissonance. There are reported accounts that speak of a profound vision and religious experiences. He said he had a voice that taught him of the laws he must follow. One of those laws was baptism by immersion. However, the Wesleyan Church didn't practice such, and that made him desert the church. As Shembe's dissonance grew more intense with the Wesleyan Church, he met Reverend William Leshega of the African Native Baptist Church. The Reverend baptized Shembe by mission in Harrismith on the 22nd of July 1906. This was a pivotal moment in Shembe's spiritual development. This period was also shadowed by the Bambata Rebellion in 1906, a Zulu uprising against increased taxation and colonial control. While Shembe's direct involvement is not recorded as a leader, the rebellion underscored the deep-seated grievances and the yearning for self-determination among the African people, a sentiment that would subtly inform the context of his later ministry, such as self-determination and self-sufficiency. Amidst this changing world, Shembe's spiritual yearning intensified. He eventually made the momentous decision to leave the Wesleyan Church, seeking a more authentic expression of his faith. His search led him to Boksburg, an industrial hub where he encountered the African Native Baptist Church, a burgeoning independent African religious movement. The African Native Baptist Church was led by the Reverend William Leshigga, a man who recognized Shembe's deep spiritual commitment. This is the same man that baptized Shembe. Shembe became a minor evangelist in Leshigga's church and worked as an itinerary evangelist, and was eventually given the official preacher's certificate by Leshigga in 1908. Shembe then led a congregation of Leshigga until 1909, when Leshigga affiliated with John G. Lake's Apostolic Faith Mission. While the Apostolic Faith Mission was founded in 1908 and Pentecostalism brought to South Africa by American missionaries, several factors helped create a favorable climate for the Pentecostal Zionist movement to spread in the country. In July 1909, it was decided that baptism of white, black, and colored would be separate. This situation would lead to the withdrawal of Africans from the AFM, resulting in the formation of African-initiated churches, such as ZCC, APHC, Nazarite Baptist Church, and St. John's Apostolic Faith Mission, among others. The early years of the new century were marked by significant events. In 1910, the fiery spectacle of Halley's Comet streaked across the sky, sparking awe and speculation, and was seen in South Africa. In the backdrop of this, the Union of South Africa was formed, consolidating white rule and further marginalizing the African population. Across the ocean, King Edward of England passed away in the same year, marking the end of an era for the colonial power. Shembe continued to experience a profound spiritual calling. He believed he received a divine instruction to leave his new home and family. He was tasked with a journey back home to Natal to preach a new message for the African people. He initially resisted the calling because it was a significant sacrifice. However, after all his children passed away, he saw this as a sign from God. He ascended a mountain to go and pray, and he was struck by lightning. His thigh was injured, and it took him 2 weeks to recover. Obeying this divine calling, Shembe arrived in Durban on the 10th of March, 1910. His arrival was not unannounced, spreading the word throughout Natal. A man of heaven has been sent by God to deliver a vital message to the African people. Shembe was not missionary educated like most of the spiritual leaders at the time. Shembe had been the head of a polygamous household, and colonial persecution and war had disrupted his life twice. Shembe's charisma, miraculous power, and teachings resonated deeply with his followers as he blended elements of Old and New Testament with Zulu traditions and prophecies. He emphasized prayer, purity, and a strong moral code, offering a spiritual home that felt both familiar and transformative to its adherents. Another practice that made a difference was the observance of the Sabbath. Shembe was convinced of the centrality of the Sabbath for salvation by 1906 and instituted it from the beginning of the NBC in 1910. Shembe wore his traditional garb, a skin loincloth known as ibeshu. The church also practiced Sabbath worship and sacred dance. The early church faced criticism and even opposition from both Natal colonial authorities, the missionary-educated black elite, and established missionary groups. Yet its message of hope and empowerment spread rapidly. In 1911, he purchased a piece of land and established a holy city called Ekuphakameni. This was an attempt on his part to keep his people on the land free of white control, influence, and exploitation. He also established a yearly pilgrimage to the holy mountain of Nhlangakazi, an event that was central to the Nazarites. By 1913, he formed ibandla AmaNazaretha, known as the Nazareth Baptist Church. His congregants consisted primarily of Zulu-speaking natives that were indentured migrant laborers and living at the margins of Natal urban areas. Shembe was known for composing numerous Zulu hymns and sacred dances. He has also been credited for creating sacred costumes that combine Zulu regalia and European clothing. He further developed his own new Christian calendar that omitted Christmas, Easter, and Sunday worship. In addition to that, he wanted his congregants to follow a strict dietary law that included restriction against eating chicken, pork, and other unclean foods as found in the Old Testament of the Bible. Furthermore, he advocated worship of biblical Sabbath rather than on Sunday. He chose to identify instead with the Sabbath of God, Jehovah. He saw Sabbath as essential to the wholeness and well-being of Africans. In its early days, the church was faced with much opposition from missionaries who accused it of misleading people, polluting the gospel, and sheep stealing. Shembe had to continuously defend himself and his church against the external forces that sought to destroy him and his church. As a result, the church has had to walk a fine line between belligerence and civility. It is worth noting that the ZCC was founded by Bishop Ignace Barnabas Lekganyane in 1910 as well. Lekganyane wanted to establish a Christian church that would accept the lifestyle, culture, political development, and history of Africa. These churches came out of the Pentecostalism. The founding father of the Zionist Pentecostal movement was John Alexander Dube. The social and political landscape continued to shift dramatically. In 1912, the African National Congress ANC was formed, marking a crucial step in the organization's resistance against racial discrimination and injustice. The following year, 1913, the Land Act was passed, a devastating piece of legislation that further dispossessed black people of their land, forcing many into poverty and dependence. Amidst the turbulent times, Isaiah Shembe's message resonated deeply with many. His teachings offered not only spiritual guidance but also a sense of identity, community, and hope in the face of oppression. The seeds of the Nazarite Baptist Church, a unique African Christian movement, has been sown, promising a new spiritual path for people navigating a rapidly changing and often hostile world. In the 1930s, Shembe commissioned his neighbor, John Langalibalele Dube, the founding president of the SANCC, which later became known as the ANC, to write his biography. The book Ushembe appeared shortly after Shembe's death. Because Dube was an ordained minister, not a Nazarite, he had not presented Shembe in flattering terms. Shembe's rise to fame as a prophet are questioned, while his ability to extract financial contribution for his membership is highlighted. John Dube proposed that even kings and princes from the royalty were not revered and respected in the same manner as Shembe was revered by the members of the Nazareth Church. Shembe died on the 2nd of May after standing for 3 hours in cold water in a river administrating adult baptism. Isaiah had appointed Johannes, his eldest son, as his successor. Only after Isaiah's death did Johannes discover that he also possessed the gift of healing, and his ability to carry this branch of his father's works has done a great deal of strengthening his position as the head of the church. However, Shembe's younger son, Amos Shembe, and Johannes' son, Londa Shembe, who fought with each other over who was the legitimate successor. This eventually led to the formation of 2 separate branches of the church. Londa Shembe led Ebuphakame and Amos Shembe led Ephuhleni after splitting from Ebuphakame, and both of whom believe that they are legitimate heirs. The legacy of Isaiah Shembe continued after his passing in 1935, passed down through a succession of leaders. The church navigated the tumultuous years of apartheid South Africa, a period of immense social injustice and racial segregation. The NBC faced numerous squabbles in the church related to the succession wrangles that have rocked the church since the 1970s and given birth to the current 7 factions. Under apartheid, the Shembe Church, like many other independent churches, became a space of spiritual solace and cultural preservation for black South Africans. While not overtly political in its primary mission, its very existence as a thriving autonomous religious movement was a subtle act of resistance against a system that sought to suppress African identity and agency. The church provided its followers with a sense of community, dignity, and spiritual strength in the face of systematic oppression. The Nazareth Baptist Church openly practices polygamy, virginity testing of young women. Some of these practices have led to the church being criticized by different sectors of society. The criticism is fueled by images and videos on social media of old men marrying young women. Members of the church argue that this is their religion, tradition, and culture of their ancestors, and they will not change it for a modern world that is westernized, out of touch with Zulu roots. The Shembe church continues to grow and evolve. It remained a significant cultural and religious force. Its elaborate ceremonies, distinctive attire, and unique blend of faith and tradition attracting widespread attention and criticism. The church has over 4 million followers and is dogged by succession battles that has often landed in courtrooms. The Nazareth Baptist Church has also been accused of tribalism because of its Zulu ethnic stronghold, and it has been accused of exhibiting traits of a cult because the followers believe Shembe is their Messiah. In 2025, the Nazareth Baptist Church stands as a testament of the enduring vision of Isaiah Shembe, the unwavering faith of its millions of members, from its humble beginnings in the early 20th century to its prominent place in modern South African society. The Shembe Church has navigated profound historical shifts, always maintaining its distinctive identity and spiritual core. It remains a vital source of spiritual guidance, cultural pride, and community for its followers, a living embodiment of faith's ability to adapt, endure, and flourish.